Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Optics in Action, where we spotlight leaders with vision and clarity. And today I'm super excited to have Chris Castillo. He is a certified EOS implementer. So we're going to find out a little bit more about what that means. I've known Chris for a couple of years, and he's referred some clients back and forth, and really great guy. So I'm super excited to have you on today, Chris, and to learn more about you.
Thanks, Ryan. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you. It's good to see you again as well.
Yeah. So awesome. I always like to start the podcast with understanding why you do what you do. What are you passionate about? Why do you do what you do? We're going to get into what is this EOS thing and all that, but why do you do what you do?
I realized a couple of years ago after scaling a business that I became passionate and realized I'm good at helping other people be successful and find their unique ability and then get out of their way. So with EOS that helped us scale our previous business, and I realized there's a vehicle here that I can go and help struggling businesses, teach them some tools, make sure they're all aligned, and then let them just go execute, have more fun in their business, and then go help somebody else. Because it's just like you're teaching a kid to ride a bike, and once they get it, you realize they got it, and then they're just going to keep going faster and faster. That's the kind of stuff that gets me up in the morning.
Yeah, no, that's it. That's exciting stuff. So tell us a little bit about your backstory. So you had scaled a business before, and going through that experience of being an entrepreneur yourself and now helping other entrepreneurs. That's an interesting combination. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, had a business, started in 2010 at the time with my wife, and then running a coaching company, really from just figuring out as we went along with Mocho Entrepreneur's Door. Like we wake up and okay, what do we have to do today? And we just do it. And it's fine until it's not fine, until you hit the ceiling of cash flow, or you have to hire people or have to let people go, or whatever it is running a business, especially when you have run a business and it was successful, selling it, which was at the stepping stone, you get into a bigger business. I was finding myself honestly staying up till 2 a.m., catching up on every single detail of the day, really running the whole back end of the business and being successful in spite of ourselves. So we got about 2 million in revenue. It was great, and decided that we wanted to build the business or scale it, but we just couldn't do it in California. It was really hard to run a business there. Decided to move to Texas, the Dallas area, and got here and realized what worked before wasn't working anymore. We just couldn't keep doing the same thing. Again, it wasn't sustainable health-wise. I found myself dropping my son off at soccer, going to Starbucks and catching up on emails that I didn't get to during the day, and which means I'm already behind, and not really having that balance that entrepreneurs strive for. Like, we're going to start a business and have all this time. It wasn't true. It was not very healthy or sustainable. Found the book Traction from Gino Wickman, resonated with the tools in there that this makes sense to give us a framework of how to run and scale a business. Started implementing that, and the business just kept growing from there. And once I exited, it was a great exit. I actually exited in about 30 days because everything was documented. People didn't need to ask any questions. They knew their jobs. We hired the right people in the right seats. And that's when I realized this is fun to do. And it was exciting to get people to bypass a lot of the things I went through. It was a good learning experience, but some people really, that's where businesses fail. They hit that ceiling or get stuck, and then they just give up, or their business becomes unfun. And so I wanted to start helping people get past that and tell them, you don't have to work this way. There's better ways to run a business and not sacrifice family time and other things, going to the gym, that kind of stuff. And so that's what attracts me to businesses that really need my help. They are family-owned businesses, service-based business, technology businesses, but if they have people, they know how complex it can get and how everything's fine until it's not fine.
Yeah.
Or they like, it worked yesterday, but why isn't it working today? And we're not really sure what happened. It just changed. And if I can help them give clarity and help them, we actually teach independence at EOS. Our job is to teach the tools of EOS so that they can actually learn the tools, become self-managed, get really good at it, teach their people the tools, and then they are off and running. I let them graduate. Now they're an EOS company. I go find somebody else to help.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And so I think that story of you utilized the EOS system in your previous business that enabled you to get some of the freedom you were looking for and scale it and sell it. And then learning about that system, then it sounds like you became motivated to help other entrepreneurs to find that same freedom, to do the same things that you're doing. So how does that work then? So tell us a little bit about the EOS system and how that works with clients and your support of them and their businesses as they're working through some of these things on their own.
Great question. As you probably know, everybody can start a business, right? But they all bring their own experiences and methodologies and all these other things, either from corporate, from who their parents, how they taught them, whatever they had, maybe the paper route they had back as a kid. Everybody does things a little differently. Unfortunately, the founder or the partners may have a vision, but they don't tell anybody or they don't tell their people. So they're like, we're here to make money. Way too vague, right? So we help come in and we actually help simplify their vision. So everybody's crystal clear of what that vision looks like. And everybody can say, okay, that's why we're here and here's what we're doing. And then that allows people to see where they fit in the company, why they show up and why they're important to help achieve that vision. So that drives accountability. A lot of times owners are frustrated with their people because they're not accountable. The problem is the owners aren't crystal clear in the vision. They haven't told them often enough. This is how we do things here. This is where we're going. And this is how we're going to get here. Here's the plan. Or they tell them once in the interview and never again. Or it's on a poster somewhere in the coffee room, right? So we teach them, clarify your vision, tell your people over and over again so they understand that's where we're going. Everything else doesn't apply here. And then we also help them become healthy as a leadership team and as a group, because most times they are not having fun together, actually executing well together. So we see both sides of giving them tools, simplifying their business so they actually can start seeing what's working, what's not. And when they get stuck, my job is to really help them dig down, find the root cause of the problem so it gets out of their way so they can get back on track to executing in their business. So the vision is the plan. And then we have measurables so they can see if they're actually winning here and there. And when they're off, how do we get them back on track and really help them optimize their time so they're not spending time recreating the wheel?
Yeah, no, I love that. And so if a person's listening to this and they're thinking about, this sounds interesting, like I'm an entrepreneur, I'm struggling with some of these things that Chris is talking about. What are some steps that you recommend that they take to start learning more, start exploring more about EOS, about traction, about how this works?
Yes, what we'd like to do is tell people, especially business owners, partners, somebody on a leadership team that's actually running a business, right? First thing is, if they think they are stuck, frustrated, if they got pulled back into the business or all the above, cash flow problems, things like that, we like having conversations with them to see, how's your business going? And tell me more about what's working, what's not. Free conversation, just to get to see where they're at. And are they ready to make some changes? And then we recommend them reading the book Traction. And unfortunately, most leaders don't have time to read a book because they are so busy in their business. So really, they're operators in their own business. And they don't realize it. They think it might be a rite of passage. And I tell them, that's okay when you're starting up, but you need to elevate to making $100 an hour decisions and stop doing the $25 an hour work. You need to have time to work on your business so you can have your people execute in the business. So that's what I
love some of the, there are some things that you talk about in EOS that just like stick in my brain, have been just seared in my brain, that you need to make time to work on your business, not just in your business. That's a one. There's another one you talk about, which is get your processes documented and followed by all. And that's really one of the things that we help organizations with. Is it's one thing to document processes and to say that you have them, but getting people to follow consistently sustainable processes that will propel your business is really hard for organizations to do. So what's that look like as you start working with leadership teams? You got the right people in the right seats and in the work on the business, not in the business, and then get your process documented and followed by all. What do those things look like for your clients as they start down this journey?
That's a great question, because inevitably that comes up with every business. Either they have no processes written down because it's in the founder's head, or they have them, but they're spread all over the place because everybody does things differently, or no one knows what they are. And in our journey with our clients, we get them to clarify what their team looks like, the vision and so forth, and start executing. And then we tell them that's what has to happen. Now that we've cleaned up and optimized a little bit, let's start writing the stuff down. Oh, by the way, here's the framework that we would start with, because most people that I found with my experience either love processes, them hopefully one on the team, or they hate them because they either don't work, they never were updated, they were never trained, they tried it once and it broke, or they couldn't find it, so they'll say, never mind, I'll do it. And we tell them when they're ready, they really need to take the time to get the processes out of their head. Oh, by the way, the first iteration of your process is probably not optimal, but at least it's something.
Yeah.
And you have to commit to obviously writing it down, getting clarity if what done looks like is what you want, and then go back and make sure it's refined. Because the first time, it's like a term paper, right? The first draft is not what you turn in. You have to look it over and over. And we teach them, write it down, consolidate, and have one repository, one place. And for your business, keep it simple, let everybody know where it is. And I have found in my previous business, funny story, I couldn't train any of my people. I had to document the process in checklists and videos, and they had to train themselves. Yeah. So that put the onus on me to have some great processes. And I realized my iterations were based in my world, not necessarily their world. But the great thing was, once they tried my process flow, if it was their job, they owned the next iteration of it and all the updates of it. Right. And when it broke, they had to fix it. So now they started owning it. And when they elevated, somebody came in behind them, they got to start at that level and not from ground zero. That made it so much easier to onboard, to get people to actually shift gears when things had to change in the business, because they had a baseline, right? And they also could take that stuff or the department expanded, bringing on new people and saying, we used to do it this way, now we're doing it this way, which is twice as fast and more efficient, because they had some kind of baseline or some kind of foundation.
Yeah, no, I think that's so critical. So you mentioned earlier that you documented all the processes in the business that you were running and that you ultimately were able to sell. How important was that documentation and getting people engaged and getting people owning and following the processes and further streamlining them? How important was it for you to enable your team to own their processes and have them documented in order so you could sell the business and be able to get there? Like, how important was that for you?
It was huge. And it's one of those, I think, the strengths of a business when they have documented processes, and really anything that gives you a glimpse of how the business is run. And honestly, the hardest part of it is to start, because people either want perfection or they just want to do it at all. But getting them just to put their ideas down on paper or use a tool, whatever they use. And then what I do with my assistant, I document the process, gave it to her, had her go through it, optimize it, and then have her husband try it. And if he got the result we wanted, then it was simple enough. Yeah. If not, then it wasn't simple enough for him. And we just make sure people are keeping it simple, because less is more when it comes to the process. Yeah. And don't overcomplicate, and don't put a 700-page SOP together, because people will never use it.
People will never read it, right? It's got to be simple. It's got to be clear, and it's got to be something that somebody can pick up and they can start to understand very quickly. What am I supposed to do? Why am I supposed to do it? And how do I do it? Like those three things I think are so essential for any process. It's you don't have to give all the details to teach every little piece of it. But if you can teach good humans, if you recruit the right people into the right seats, and you teach them what to do, how to do it, and why it's important, if you can do those two things, you've got a magical formula for an amazing business.
Yes, and it really elevates the good workers, because they want to know how to do their job. They want to know what done looks like. And even though you do document the process, be prepared to let them try it and fail.
Yeah.
And that's okay, because the people that want to learn, they will actually go through and dig into it and get into it. And here's the great result of this. It gives you back your time. It takes time to start, but then once they get it, now you're doing your job and not two of you doing one job. And then when there's a change or an issue, the question to ask is, what does the process say? And they reply, what process? That's an issue. Where's the process? That's an issue. Or it didn't work. And then you can say, how would you fix it? Now go fix it. And it allows your people to be autonomous and think for themselves. And when they're not aligned with the plan, then as a leader, you can say, okay, this is what we do here. This is the results we want. That doesn't align. That is what the conversation is, not stopping your job to go help them and show them their job over and over again. And people don't realize it takes time, but it actually will give you your time back so you can elevate and do your job even better.
I love it. And I love the concept that you shared of the term paper. That seems painful to a lot of people, I'm sure. They're like, I don't know. But the concept that you've got to start by making your first draft. You can never create a great masterpiece of artwork or a great masterpiece of a term paper if you don't start. You got to start to get to the end result. And then you've got to iterate, right? Artists, musicians, great writers, none of them started by creating their first masterpiece. Every one of them started with something that was iterated on and improved and refined and got them to where they're at. And I think the same thing applies to business. Being able to take some processes and look at those roles and responsibilities and say, all right, what is it that I'm actually accountable for? What is it I'm actually responsible for? How do I do it? Why do I do it? Helping your employees learn those things, I think, becomes the essence of what makes a business great. And so I love some of the stuff you've shared. If folks are interested in learning more, Chris, how do they get a hold of you, or how do they learn more about what you're doing and how you're doing it and whether it might be a good fit for them?
Great question. So it's real easy. I'm on LinkedIn. It'll say Chris Castillo -EOS, or on the EOS Worldwide website, there's a way to look up implementers. And if you just look up my name, Chris Castillo, you'll find me within my website. My page goes into detail with my story, who I serve. I also consult on the Colby Index, which talks about how to manage people, which plugs right into getting people in the right seats, and all those great things, because we found that we need to do a little bit more than just give them a framework. We also need to help them, again, in their journey to becoming self-managed. So quick and easy, or they can always call me and I can leave the information as well. You can put it in the transcript. Love having conversations, spend most of my day talking to people. And I also offer a free 90-minute meeting for the leaders and their teams to explain what EOS is and see if it's a good fit for you. Because we do a lot of work for free just to make sure we're attracting the right clients and see if we can actually be of value. And we offer free tools if maybe they're not ready to do the full implementation, and that is fine as well. If nothing else, I'll send you a free book of traction just to get you started.
Hey, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on today, Chris, on this episode of Optics in Action, where today you shared some stuff with our audience about the entrepreneur operating system. It's not an Excel spreadsheet or something. It's a system. It's got a full toolbox of ways to help free entrepreneurs from the traps that they might find themselves in their business. So thank you again for being on this episode of Optics in Action.
Thank you for having me, Ryan. It was a pleasure.